What's going on, everybody? S.L.B coming at you with another video review, and this time we're taking a look at Generation Toy GT-8B Katana, or as some of you G1 Transformers fans know him as Blade. So let's take a quick look at the packaging. Here he is, some nice artwork on the front there. Looking all gonna cut you, sucker. Bottom of the packaging just continues that artwork. Top of the packaging just says Generation Toy. Nice chrome font there. Back of the packaging just has warning. This is for people 18 or 16 or older, sorry. Choking hazard, blah, 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 all that stuff. Nobody reads that because, I don't know, it's on everything. So that is it for this part. It is a slip cover. Just slips right off. Oh, that's very tight. Very tight. Push that off to the side. And here we have the actual packaging. It's just got a nice chrome outline of Katana's face there. Generation Toy again. In nice chrome font. Nothing there. Generation Toy. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Let's get him out of the packaging and see what he looks like in hand. Okay, so here's the deal. When I took him out of the packaging, this is how he originally came. I've contacted, where I bought it from. Hopefully they'll get back to me, but I want to let you know about this, that the plastic on this guy, be very, very careful. This came out of the packaging like this. It was already broke. But that just goes to show the kind of plastic it is. I mean, I really can't fault him too much because he is encased in styrofoam, and there's not a lot of wiggle room in these things when they put them in there initially. I don't know when the break happened. I'm not sure how it happened, but I just want to be very careful on these panels when you're transforming him, and just be mindful in general of, him. The plastic is very brittle. So here we have Katana out of the packaging, and really quickly let's go over what's included. What's included is, let's move this guy back a little bit here, is your instruction sheet. These suck. These are not great. They're not very clear. They're kind of confusing, but they're just it's so small, it's kind of hard to make out what moves where, and the arrows aren't really clear on which direction you're supposed to turn it. So that's my one gripe with this. The instructions. I mean, they look nice, but other than that, it's just not clear on which part's supposed to move which way and how you're supposed to get this with this. But yeah, that's it for the instruction book. He also includes, let's move him forward now, these bits that came in the package separately, but I've got them, plugged on there. So let's go over the look of the figure first. He looks pretty good. He looks, for a helicopter, he looks great, I think. My one complaint with the look is I wish that the tip of the nose up here matched this. Like, I wish this was just like a flat red instead of this candy sprayed red up here, because this is the only part in vehicle mode that has this paint job on it, and it's not very consistent with the rest of the figure. I love the cloudy, the not so clear windows. It's got that nice smoky plastic in there, so you can't really look inside, but you can tell they're windows. I love, and everybody knows me, I love this kind of plastic for windows. The molding is nice. It's very smooth. There are some panel molded bits all throughout here just to give it that little bit of a feel to it. And once you get to the back, it's kind of questionable, but still the molding's nicely done. The paint's really nice. The plastic's held up very well for the most part. I'll get into that later. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Articulation-wise, it's just a helicopter, so whee, 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 whee. That's about it. This spins more freely than the top propellers. It's mainly for transformation purposes, but these can bend up and down and turn 360, and this can go forward and back. This can do a full 360. It's just this kind of gets hindered back here, but yeah, he's pretty cool. It is a very good vehicle mode. I will say right off the bat, one other issue I have is these parts, I don't know what they're called. Somebody help me out, comment section below. These don't peg in at the bottom here. These are on a sliding mechanism. And where they're touching is not a flat part. But this part is. Hang on a second, let me grab something. Ha! Almost forgot my pointer spudger right here. This will be quite helpful. So this white part right here is not flat. It's kind of angled right here. The part of the black plastic right here is completely flat. The way it sits is kind of half on and half off. So when you kind of put them down, at some points, you know, if you're really careful, he'll stay up, but if you push it down, the landing portion's kind of split like he's doing the splits, but if you get it somewhat decent, he's okay. That's kind of a drawback for me. And this is super thin. I would be careful with this, with the landing part down here. Be careful with that. It's super thin. The plastic feels okay, I guess. I'll get into that later when we get into transformation, when I'll go over final thoughts and everything. So there is that. Let's get into some comparisons. For comparison, let's bring out some other helicopters. Here is TFC blades right there. I don't know how well you can see these two together. So there's that. And again, I like the, grab Mr. Pointer Spudger here. I like the cloudy plastic as opposed to blue plastic here. And I think one thing that Generation Toy did a very good job in that TFC didn't was just the overall profile. This is just, let me move them over here a little bit more. Generation Toy has got a nice, slim, slender profile. Looks very aerodynamic, very streamlined. Whereas TFC Toys, it's very blocky. And I know there are some helicopters in the world that kind of look like this, but it's just a personal preference that I like the slick, smooth look compared to this big, thick, blocky one. So that's just my personal opinion. Also for comparison, let's just bring out Combiner Wars blades. Yay for Combiner Wars. So there's that comparison. Let's bring out Generation Toys' other Protectabot. This is Sarge right here. And scale does not matter. But here's how they look together. And they actually do look good together. They do look like they belong together. People may confuse him for Prowl. Trust me, he's not Prowl. He may look like a Nissan in a little bit, but I don't think he looks like a Nissan too much. I think he looks more maybe Mustang-ish, but this isn't about Sarge, this is about blades. But I do like the way they look together in vehicle mode. So there's that for comparison. And for one final comparison, G1. But yeah, I picked both of these up at TFCon, so I figured, you know, if I'm going to do this, I might as well have a G1 comparison. So here's your G1 comparison. I like the, you know, this is G1, so the red's kind of faded a little bit, but I do like the red plastic. I like that it's not maroon, it's still red, and I like that. But then this just, that just gets me. All right, so that is it for vehicle mode. I'm not going to do combine mode. I'll save combine mode when I get the rest of them and I do the full-on Generation Toy Defensor review. So let's get him into robot mode and see what's robot. Well, yeah, you know what I meant. Shut up. You know what I completely forgot about? He also comes with a gun. And here's the gun. Some nice molded detail on the gun. I do like it. There is storage for it in vehicle mode. He's got these holes right here. He's got 2 pegs right there, so it just kind of pops in right there. But I'm not going to get to that right now. But yeah, gun's gonna be cool. The one downfall to the gun, I'll show it off when we get into. Go into more detail, but it's this part right here on the handle. But I'll go into that when we get into robot mode. So now, seriously, robot mode. So here we have Katana in his robot mode, and I'm gonna go out and say it right now. I have so many issues, not with the look of him, more as so the transformation and tolerances. I'll get into that when I get into it, so I might diverge from what I'm talking about at the time, but let's get into the look of the figure. The look of the figure is great to a point. I shouldn't have said great. It's okay. Here are my main issues right off the bat, just looking at him full on, full figure. It's kind of odd with the stylistic choice that they took. In that, in the upper section here, it's very blocky. There's a lot of hard angles, and it's stoic to a point because he's, his shoulders are kind of bulked out a little bit, and he's muscular up here. As where we go down to the front of the shins here, it's very smooth, very round sections. Especially down here, it's very rounded. It's kind of I'm kind of having a hard time trying to describing how it looks, but it's very just kind of like calming. If that makes kind of sense. It's very just smooth and silent, whereas this is like bold and kind of in your face and just you know what I mean? Does that make sense? The head sculpt on this guy is great. It's to a point. The silver accents on the chin section here are beautifully done. Nice light sky blue for the mouth piece, for the mouth and nose section right here. Some nice silver paint along the top of the head here. Issue number 1. Not really an issue, more like a gripe, more like why. Why is there light piping on this figure, whereas on the last figure they did, Sarge here, they're Streetwise, there's no light piping. Pick one or the other, not both. I don't want the whole Defensor or Protectobots from Generation to Toy. I don't want like 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 having one or the other. Pick one. I'm going to be honest. I don't like the light piping on this style of figure. I'd much rather have the nice, completed look back here, no light piping. So if that's the case, if they're going to go with light piping for the rest of them, I'll deal with it. Give me a replacement head for Streetwise then. Give me another head with light piping for this one. It doesn't match. It doesn't look well together. So that's my issue with the head. I mean, it looks great. It looks beautiful. It's breathtaking. It's just that light piping thing. Why? Okay. Moving on to the chest area. The chest is very nicely done. Nice clear red plastic here in the pectoral area. Some nice gold accents. Beautifully done gunmetal gray center section here with a little spot here for an Autobot symbol for repro labels. Going down to the side here, to the midsection, a little bit darker gray for this little area right here. Nicely done silver paint underneath here with a little gold accent in the ab area to kind of match the gold accents up here. I kind of understand why they didn't do this, but it kind of would have been nice if they did. They kind of have this silver paint kind of just continue on to the side sections of the middle area. But I understand because this is all solid white here, and on this side, it's not all solid white because you got the elbow joint for combined mode right there. So I understand that. The skirt section Some nice gunmetal gray paint here. Looks very nicely done. A little bit of molded detail on the crotchal area here. And another confusing bit for me is the leg section. Because if you look on the inside of the legs, there's a red line going down here, which is painted very nicely. No blemishes whatsoever on this, on the inside here. But if you look at the outside, it's gone. It's not there. Let me get this out of the way. You don't have that red line. I think if that red line was on the outside, it would have looked breathtaking. It would have looked gorgeous. Just because there's a lot of white there and just had that one little red line would have not broke it up very nicely. Same thing with right here. They could have done a nice red line here as well through that. On the outside, some molded detail in this area right here. This is that gunmetal gray plastic here. On the inside of the leg, got some nice gold paint, some silver paint here. A little bit of molded detail all throughout here. Looks very nice. And articulation wise, his head is on a mushroom peg. You can do a full 360 there. It's got a hinge. Looks up very far. You can look down, yeah, a little bit okay. The shoulders, I'll go on to the rant of the shoulders when I get to my final thoughts. You can do a full 360 here. You can go out that far, but if you want to get even further range of movement, you can unpeg it from underneath here. No swivel here, but there is a swivel above the elbow. Can get you a hair under 90 degrees at the elbow. The wrists are on a mushroom peg, so you can do a full 360 with the wrists. You can bend them up and down, which I think is really cool, particularly when we get into the weapons. I think that's really cool. The index finger is separated from the other 3 index fingers here, so you do have a hinge there. Let's get the shoulders out of the way. If you do want an ab crunch, you kind of have to unpeg it, but you can get a little bit of an, actually you can get an extreme ab crunch there. Insert your sucking your own dick joke here. There's a swivel here, and if you want to consider this articulation, there's the elbow joint there. The hip skirts can get out of the way. You can only go forward that far, but if you want to force it, you can't really because of the clearance from this red plastic in the upper thigh. You can go out very far there. You can only go back that far, and that's just due to there no being butt flat back here. There is also a swivel at the hip area here, so that's kind of nice. Where we're at now. Oh yeah, the knees. The knees, you can get over 90-degree bend if you don't mind the gap right here. If you don't want the gap, that's about as far as you can go. And the feet are on a hinge. You can get some ankle rocker there. It's mainly for transformation. We do have a little bit of articulation there if you want that. Same thing with the toes. It's mainly for transformation, but you do have a little bit of a toe bend there if you want to use that. So there's that. Let's go over the accessories for Katana here. Let's bring out his gun. And his gun, like I said earlier, is nicely done. This is the weird thing I was talking about. I don't know if this is a manufacturer thing or what this issue is, but there's only a peg on one side, so it can only go into one hand. So I'm going to be very careful with this because this is the loose arm. You get it in, quickly close the hand. It's a very tight grip. Those fingers, they're not too tight to where you feel like you're going to break them if you move them. And if you get them wrapped around the weapon, it's not going anywhere. It's a nice tight grip. That's the one thing I like about the finger articulation. It's not overly tight and it's not too loose. So there's that. And then let's bring out his swords here. His swords are nicely done. They're the rotors for the helicopter mode. First of all, the look of them are very nice. Nice molded detail. Some grip down here. Kind of got a little bit of molded detail up here on the blade. So that's nice. But the cool thing about these is that there's a playability factor to these. You see the hole here? You got some pegs up here in the back kibble, right here, and that pegs in okay. If you don't want them up there, I mean, there's one on each side also. There are pegs on the side of each blade, and he's got holes on the side here, and they just peg in right there. And that's not really a tight fit. It's nice. It's tight enough to where it kind of holds it in there, but if you just, yeah, kind of pops out. Maybe somebody will come up with a like a 3D print of like a something to slide the sword into. But there's that, which I think is cool. I think it adds to the playability. Much like the gun, the swords also have, let me take this one off. They each have a peg on one side, which is okay if you want to have them dual wielding them. You know, again, it's not a tight fit. Let's get this one here really quickly. As quick as I can, I should say. Come on. Come on, work with me. Of course you want to work with me, because you're a toy. Let's see if it'll work on this side. There we go. Slides in right there. Be right back. Okay, here he is. So, sorry about that. The swords have the exact same issue as the gun. You may have to sand it down a little bit to kind of clip some excess off. They have a really hard time being held in the hands and clipping into that slot right here on the palm there. But he can dual wield them, and this is one of the cool things about the articulation is you can even have him a little bit of extra, you know, dynamic pose with the way the wrist bends forward like that, which I think is kind of cool. Which, you know, if he's got a sword, you kind of want that in a figure, to have that extra bit of articulation in the wrist. So there's that. Now, one more cool thing about these swords is, let me take the back one off here, is if you want, there's a peg on the back. On two of these, there's a peg back here, and there's a slot in the other one. And they peg together like that, and he can hold them in his hands. Unfortunately, do not peg him in this way. Like, say, for example, I was plugging in the left hand here. I wouldn't plug it in this way. I would turn it around and have the pegs facing outwards. Just due to the way that since these have issues plugging into the hands, I would recommend that you plug them in this way, and just, the fingers are tight enough, he's not going to let go of it, but I'm not going to show it off here, but it is an option if you want. I think that's kind of cool. So let's get these out of his hands here. And then let's go on to comparisons. So let's get him over here. For comparison, here he is next to TFC Toys Blades. Here he is next to Combiner Wars Blades, or Alpha Bravo, or Vortex, whatever you want to call them. So there is that for comparison. Here he is next to G1 Blades. And I like the fact that they're kind of homaging the original toy here, especially with the blue face, the red legs, the red chest area, and all that. But they're putting their own spin on it, so I like that. I forgot to do this when I was going over the vehicle mode, but I'll do it right now. Here he is, excuse me, next to MP Sideswipe. Get him out of the way. And here he is next to MP10 Optimus Prime. And scoot this back a little bit. There you go. And you know what? I was kind of questioning whether the robot mode fits in with the MP scale. And looking at this, I think it does fit the MP scale. He's in between MP10 and Sideswipe here, and I think that's a nice in between for each of these. It's a nice homage, and if you don't want to wait until Fans Toys or Zeta or whoever comes out with an unofficial fly right out of the screen representation of blades, I think this is going to be a nice palette cleanser to get you in there until we actually get that. So there's that for comparison. And lastly, here he is next to Generation Toys Sarge. They're Streetwise. And he's a little bit shorter, but they look good together in robot mode. I like them. I dig them. It's cool. It's cool, cool, cool. So let's get into final thoughts for Katana. The look of him is okay. It's confusing because you have the bulky squareness and hard, angles up here with the smoothness and the rounded angles down here. I can get behind that. It's just a weird thing I noticed. My main issue with Generation Toy Katana, it's a step back for them. Let me bring back Sarge here for a second and just go over what my issues are. Generation Toy, look at me. Don't look at this guy. Look at me. You need to work on things pegging together and your tolerances. It was only two things with Sarge here. It was the chest area and the back part here. Pushing him off to the side. Katana here is rifled with things not pegging in securely, with things being tighter than they should be. The outward movement here, if you do it enough times, it's going to loosen up. When you first get it out of the box, this is so tight that this always pops up. Since we're on this area here, clear plastic on clear plastic here, this is not a secure connection. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. And you can leave it like this, and this can be your elbow, just your shoulder joint right here, but that's kind of unflattering. I mean, this is a little bit nicer, but this is just an extreme. I mean, it's very annoying. Another thing I need to talk to you about Generation Toy is this kibble on the side of his arm. This backpack doesn't bother me at all. It's compressed enough to where it looks normal. It's fine. This is fine. This is so loose that it comes off all the time. This doesn't want to peg in, and this, I mean, this looks nice, but this peg right here should go into this slot right here, and it doesn't. It doesn't want to. And I'm scared to push it in there. Maybe I mistransformed him. I don't know. But it's just scary. And the fact that these just flop back here, it's a nuisance. It is. You can kind of work your way around that and just kind of, you can flip it up a little bit to where, yeah, see, but then you run into the issue of this coming unpegged. I mean, I would have been okay with flip-up landing gear or even parts forming, having these things peg off. I would have been fine with that. Not that big a deal. But the fact that they're just there and they're just kind of flopping around when you're trying to pose them, it's just a nuisance. This is the last thing I'm going to complain about, is this leg kibble in the back. Let me push him back a little bit so you can actually get a look at it. I think, what was it? Deluxe Baldwin mentioned this as well, and this is why I'm mentioning it, is if there was some way to kind of compress all this stuff and throw it in the cavity, that would have been great. But it's kind of an eyesore. It's just there. it's just hanging out back there, and it's just bland. And like this kibble, I'm okay with. This I'm not okay with. It's just an eyesore, and it's an annoyance of it being back there. And if you can't, if there was a way to get it into this cavity back here, I would have been okay with that. But those are my big grievances with this guy. That's how I feel about Generation Toy Katana. I was really excited to get this figure. It's not a letdown. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. So this has been S.L.B, and this has been my review of Generation Toy Katana. If you like this video, hit that like button, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Hit me up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. If you want to buy my t-shirt, buy my t-shirt. If not, I'm not going to hold it against you. This is S.L.B, and this has been my review, again, of Generation Toy Katana. And this is S.L.B saying, my childhood hates me.